So there has been a flurry of supposed bad news about Elon and Tesla that will have an effect on Tesla stock. Now don't let the pumpers and the ultra bulls fool you. If you get this wrong, you will once again be in a position of making major mistakes, and we don't want that to happen. So I'll break down the 5 biggest current events for Tesla and let you know what is concerning, what is not concerning, and what it means for the stock price. Just make sure you like the video if you like getting the truth without the hype. So number 1, Elon being sued for insider trading. Now, this lawsuit basically was alleging that Elon sold in November and December ahead of the January delivery numbers because he knew what they were going to be. So therefore it was insider trading. Now this one right here, you guys know, this one to me is absolutely nothing. There's nothing there unless he actually sold outside of the windows to sell. That's kind of the only piece there. And, the proper disclosures weren't done, etc., etc. Long as those things were done, this is going absolutely nowhere. I mean, we knew he was buying Twitter. He disclosed it. He disclosed everything that was going on along with it. Now, I understand we'll talk about some other things with the Twitter acquisition here in just a second. But in regards to that, in regards to what happened with shareholders, specifically us as Tesla shareholders, that right there was all fully disclosed. We knew it was coming, and we knew he had to sell in order to make the acquisition, fund the acquisition, have enough capital in the pot per se, in order to kind of make the changes he wanted to make and other things of that nature. This is silliness that kind of is common, honestly, with shareholders who screw themselves with a trade of some sort or something else of that nature with Tesla, or made a decision based upon what was going to happen, whatever the case is. The point being, it's usually an upset shareholder. This is not uncommon. It's actually quite common, and I'm actually surprised we haven't seen more of this from the Twitter acquisition, especially as kind of chaotic and as hectic as it was, and how many shares he had to sell in order to get himself there for it. I expected lots of lawsuits, and I was really, really surprised that this is kind of there may have been one other one, but this is the only one that kind of pops in my mind. Or when I read it, I went, oh, that's new. And yeah, I'm actually surprised I haven't read a lot of these, because that's usually what happens in these type situations. There are lots of lawsuits that kind of follow a large purchase like that, especially whenever somebody's having to sell shares of one in order to fund another. It's not uncommon. Unfortunately, it's just part of being CEO of a US company that is publicly traded. And yes, it's very common. Big tech CEOs get sued all the time. They sue the CEO, they sue the company. I mean, if you tried to keep up with all the lawsuits that were going around for all the various big tech CEOs, you'd be busy forever trying to chase all that different news. It is very, very common here in this country for that sort of thing to happen. So that was not surprising. And also keep in mind that in regards to enforcement, we talked about it before, SEC is very, very clear and very, very much on top of, and it's one of the very few rules that they actually enforce fully. It's one of the ones that they have a bunch of teeth, and it's very, very easy for them to prove. And it's very, very easy for them to take even tech CEOs to court for insider trading there. So when I see kind of the SEC obviously has reviewed all these transactions in regards to the transactions in regards to insider trading, they have found absolutely nothing there. So my guess is this lawsuit goes absolutely nowhere as well. It'll probably get tied up in the courts for who knows how long, at this stage. But understand that's a normal part of this sort of thing. Just a lot of folks, especially with Elon, everything's just kind of I don't know what you want to call it, hyper focused, or, everything's just kind of out there, kind of a little bit louder than what it normally is, as opposed to how these sort of things are taken. So if the SEC doesn't see anything and they're not taking them to court for it, I think this is going to be a big nothing burger as well. Number 2, Elon's pay package. Well, we actually had 2 different sides of the news here. We had 2 big advisory firms who advise shareholders on what they should do with shareholder votes, actually saying, no, don't vote, for this particular deal. We've talked about in the past the reasons why somebody would vote no on this. I understand that a lot of the shareholders that voted yes in 2018, some of them are still shareholders today, some of them are not. You have new shareholders here. So it's kind of a weird mix of a lot of different folks in regards to that sort of discussion. Again, you can go back and find that video there if you want to discuss it. And then on the flip side here, you have Elon also lobbying using advertising, which is something they've kind of shunned in the past. I understood why, but clearly they know advertising actually statistically works. So they're advertising, shareholders to get out there and vote. And of course, offering tours of Gigafactory. I know, it's kind of interesting. I've never seen anything like that before. So an interesting way to try to get it done. I guess I can't really blame them for that. You guys know my opinion on it. I think it's going to pass. Despite the fact that I do see some flaws in regards to what happened the first time and why the judge struck it down and all that sort of stuff. And as long as those concerns are addressed, I don't see any reason why it wouldn't pass this time. It's going to pass by a lower margin than it did last time. But nonetheless, this is kind of part of the process with this in regards to this compensation package here. So it was kind of odd kind of seeing 2 advisory firms, which I knew if you're advising, that's exactly what you would advise given the amount of value you get as shareholder in regards to dollar amounts here, not in regards to Elon or anything else like that. I mean, back onto the financials there. But I also see the other side of, Tesla just wanting to get as many people voting as possible. Obviously, with a large retail shareholder base, that's very, very important. And then kind of being able to move forward from this particular incident and kind of move forward with the company. So again, we're 2 for 2 there with news that I don't think has any material bearing on the share price, either short term or long term. Of course, traders are going to play with it regardless. But we talked about in the past video. I'm not worried about either one of these concerns, either the lawsuit or Elon pay package getting approved, not approved. Sure, there'll be some short-term trading around it, but I don't think he's going anywhere regardless. And more importantly, he's going to get paid in some way, shape, or form moving forward here. And it's going to be an incredible pay package regardless moving forward from here. So no concerns there for me in regards to share price. And yes, I understand there's lots of FUD out there among the bulls that, oh my gosh, if he doesn't get his pay fully and blah, 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 he's going to bail out and Tesla's going to toll it and I'm selling my shares and all that good stuff. I mean, I don't know, guys. This is one of those typical short-term noise things. You're just hearing it from different folks than you normally hear it from. And for me, that's just, I'm not going to engage in those games there. I like Tesla as a business. I've never included a lot of the large things that Tesla may or may not do in the future in my valuation and what I believe it can provide me with a great return in the future. So happy to hold it regardless of what happens. Number 3, Tesla Semi finally moving forward. Now, Semi is the one that we really hadn't discussed here in a long time because it's been a long time coming, but it looks like we're finally going to start see production really start hitting pace in 2026. Now, I know that's not way off the timeline we were promised. I understand exactly why. I'm not worried either way, but we finally have something tangible there. And the secondary piece that I think kind of flew under the radar a little bit was some of the testing, or a lot of the testing that, obviously Pepsi is doing with the semi truck. They're coming back with really good real world numbers. They're not as bad as I thought they were going to be. So it means and of course, I think the semi truck's going to continue to get better as well. So that means we may be able to exceed the numbers that we were getting prior to. Some of the numbers we are exceeding, some of them we're lagging a little bit, but in terms of getting them all in kind of the exceeding category over here, I think that's a very good possibility as we move forward. So that is good news for semi truck. Now, it means nothing to the stock in the short term. And there's actually a couple of reasons why. One, we're talking 2026, telling you sort of significant ramp and significant, revenue coming in, which of course, how long is it going to take for them to ramp before they start seeing profits on the bottom line? Different time, different discussion here. Point being, it's not going to be until 2026 at the earliest. So there's nothing right now that changes anything for us in 2024. The other piece that I want to be very, very careful with is we've got to kind of watch how the incentives are going to play and how the accounting rules are going to play in regards to an electric semi versus a diesel semi. And if you don't understand how GAAP accounting principles work and a lot of other things like that, there's a lot of lobbying and a lot of there'll be a lot of influence coming from folks who are affected by this significant change in the trucking industry and potential change in the diesel industry to kind of make things kind of lean their way there. And one of the ways you do it without passing a law, i.e. you could pass a law saying, hey, EVs are great. We're going to give you all these nice incentives and all these other things like that to switch your corporation over to the EV side. And, that's kind of the way one side of the aisle wins and kind of gets what they want and gets everything moving towards the EV. Then you have the other side going, yeah, but the GAAP accounting rules are going to make it to where if you buy a diesel truck, accounting wise, you're able to do different things than if you use a EV vehicle per se. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just letting you guys know those are some of the games that get played around these big time events like this that are going to shake up very, very lucrative and very, very stable businesses like the diesel industry there. So I suspect we'll see more goofy games potentially coming in the future, especially since that's different than commercial EVs for consumers, where consumers, we don't have the same, you can't use GAAP accounting to do your taxes as a personal consumer, but you can in a business. And this is the first time large businesses are going to be directly affected like that and have something significantly potentially change in regards to everybody moving from here to over to here. And because again, people just do things differently in a business than they would on their personal taxes. And more importantly, the rules are completely different as well. So kind of have two things to play there, not just legislation, but then also what are the accounting rules going to be? And that's how sometimes you get bipartisan agreements on things is everybody kind of gets their way in the end. And then you're kind of like, wow, why aren't they doing this? Why aren't companies doing that? What's going on with that? Well, a lot of times it was a simple accounting change and nobody keeps up with accounting changes. I know I most certainly am not going to go look up GAAP accounting changes in the future in regards to these sorts of things, but that could be something that kind of gets in the way later on. But again, this is all 2026 and beyond type things. Number 4, potential Trump appointee. All right, well, for me, you guys know I hate politics, and I don't think this one's true. I hope it's never going to be true. Elon said, hey, no, that's not going to happen. That's not what happens there. Now we understand exactly how he plays the game. But nonetheless, an advisory role, sure, CEOs do that all the time. I mean, who the heck do you think is going to happen if we have another financial crisis? I guarantee you, whoever's president, regardless of which party you're with, it's going to be on the phone with guys like Warren Buffett, Jamie Dimon, folks like that, trying to figure out exactly what to do in order to make the situation better there. And having Elon in some sort of a capacity there, not sure what specifically he would be over or anything else like that, but that sort of relationship I can deal with. It's a very, very temporary. But taking an actual spot, typically, again, Elon does everything different, so who knows? But typically, you step down as CEO and you decide to go over here into public service full time. And there's all sorts of other things, disclosures, and you actually have to get rid of certain interests depending upon what your job is. There's a lot to it there. And I hope it's not that. And I hope he doesn't try to, thread that needle once again and spend himself even thinner in regards to that. But having an advisory role, okay, like I said, it's doesn't really, a lot of times those advisory roles, especially if you can step in there and be kind of, not political about a lot of different things and just step in there and do the role the best you can become that trusted advisor that both parties go to when tough times hit, when they need another outside opinion on what to do. That's not a pure politician opinion per se. That right there is kind of the role I would love to see him fill. So thankfully, Elon's saying it's not going to happen. So, okay, great. That works for me perfectly. And again, that right there will be a big nothing burger in regards to the stock. Now, if he chooses to take a formal position and then wants to either not follow the rules that come along with that position, or, some of the rules get waived in order, anyways, it can create a lot of chaos there in the short term in regards to the stock there. And at that stage, it would be a concern. But for right now, I don't see any concern here. Number 5, Elon to give testimony to the SEC. Now, this is finally going to happen. And I'll be honest with you guys, I'm not sure why he fought it the whole time to begin with. There's a lot of times when large acquisitions happen. This was not a small acquisition at all. The folks that made the acquisition are asked to come in and give testimony in regards to the who, what, when, where's, and how. Sometimes I really believe it's just the SEC trying to look like they're doing due diligence and making sure they really looked into it, because there's always somebody not happy with the transaction, especially the large ones. There's always somebody on either side of the political aisle. There's always a large other here investor, very influential person that's not happy. So I think a lot of this sort of stuff is just making sure the I's are dotted, T's are crossed. Typically, the way these things work, you come in, you give your testimony, and unless there's something really nefarious that went on, which I doubt very seriously that's what it is, there's some sort of a fine levied or something like that, and you're told not to do that again, basically slap on the wrist, and you move on with life. And that's exactly what's going to happen here with this one, which of course means traders are going to do trader things, and it's going to be down for a few days, and it's going to be the end of the world. And you're going to have all the bulls come out saying, oh, it's so not fair for Elon and all this other good stuff like that. And then you're going to have folks on the other side saying, who don't like Elon, saying, oh, look, he just gets a slap on the wrist. Of course, the rich get away with everything. And you guys kind of see how this all winds down here. It's all a bunch of noise in the end that changes absolutely nothing. And out of this, there are a few short-term things that could be a short-term, I won't call them catalyst or decatalyst if the stock goes down. I'm not sure. That could influence the stock in some way, but understand that is traders playing trader things. I don't see anything here that is a fundamental change to Tesla stock. I don't see anything here that changes my thesis with Tesla stock long-term. And more importantly, any sort of short-term movement we get, or, people losing their minds about whatever in the short term here, is only going to be a gift to us as shareholders to once again buy shares on the cheap. Unless Elon decides to go full-time into politics, then we got a whole nother discussion we got to have, but I don't think that's going to happen. He said that's not going to happen. So for me, there's not a whole lot to worry about. I'm going to continue right on with my plan with Tesla stock. And if you want to see my complete watch list with price targets, including Tesla, you want to see exactly when I buy Tesla stock next, exactly what my plan is for Tesla and all the other stocks in all my portfolios. And you want to take 5 courses for free and use our Stack Analyzer tool for free, take advantage of the free coaching that we have, be a part of the best 6, 7, and 8-figure Discord out there, and so much more. Make sure you check out the pinned comment down there, guys, and sign up for my group and see if a membership's right for you. And click this video here if you want to see exactly what I'm buying in this market, and click here to see my exact plan for this market. Well, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.